So if you're a savvy investor, you should be looking deeper than just the standard questions. They think to themselves, oh, my property leases really quickly all the time. You probably left some money on the table there.
Yeah.
It's actually probably a pretty good question to if you're going to quiz a property manager by saying why is the best way to have a lounge room facing, because if they don't know the answer to that, then it's pretty brutal. So you've got to avoid those red flags. Speak to the agents in the area and understand what it is, what are the most high demand properties that are in the area, and then you make your decisions to tweak that to match in your investment choice.
Thank you, Steve, for coming to our Cashflow Curiosity podcast.
Thanks for inviting me, Keith.
So we've been working together for almost 10 years now.
Yeah, time
I
flies.
really appreciate you giving us that opportunity. I still remember day one, walking to your office, doing a pitch. That was my first successful cold call, and then that eventuated into a meeting. And I really appreciate you guys giving my company, Mork Interiors, a shot. So if I gave you 60 seconds to introduce yourself, tell us what you do and the number one problem that you help solve for your clients.
My name's Stephen Fitzsimon. I am the Director of Business Growth at Melbourne Real Estate, which is a large inner Melbourne real estate agency that's sort of flown under the radar for the past 15 or 20 years. We have a very large rent roll and we sell about 350, 400 properties a year. We work almost exclusively with investors on their journey, and we know how to maximise people's outcomes from their properties and deliver on a truly professional property management experience, as opposed to it being the little sister to the main game, which is selling houses in most agencies.
That's awesome. If we tell our audience, without high-performing property managers, your property portfolio is leaking money, how can you expand on this, or can you explain?
Well, it's almost a certainty. So we see it every day. We take over managements from other agencies and we're able to quickly and easily improve outcomes for our clients. So it starts with the number one thing that we can play with, the rent. And rent is normally established or built from the way that the property was initially marketed.
Yeah.
If you don't have expertise in marketing, then you're not going to deliver the best outcome. Now, expertise in marketing is something that a lot of agencies will claim to have, but few agencies can actually deliver on. And when I say that, I speak from the experience of employing probably hundreds of property managers that have come to our agency and from other agencies and been significantly impressed by our understanding of every little finer detail when it comes to marketing and the impact on a client's performance.
Yeah.
So that drives rent. If you get better marketing, you get better rents. So that's one aspect of it, but it's only that aspect. Then you look at, okay, that solves income. What about costs? So you've got fixed costs you can't muck around with, so you get things that are like council rates. Okay, you can't go to the council and ask for a discount. But we'll always talk to our clients about making sure that they've got the right insurance cover, because you can change insurance company to getting a better value for money insurance product. You can also then look at depreciation. Have they got depreciation schedules? Are they complete? Do they cover both the property and the furnishings that might be in it? Are they resolving that depreciation journey piece? The other big one that a lot of agencies are scared to talk about is actually interest rates. So if we speak to our clients and we'll question them, when was the last time you just called your bank and asked if they had a better offer going because your broker's telling them that there's offers out there and they should be changing?
Yep.
That can be a game changer. You know, we've seen clients significantly lower their interest rate just by having a single phone call with the bank and talking to them about the fact that they've got some dummy offers. They don't have to be real. All you got to do is look on the internet for what offers are going out and quote that you've got one from a bank, and they'll drop their interest rate for you. So especially if you haven't done much about it for 2 to 3 years or more, you'll be able to get a cheaper rate through one phone call to your owner. So there's just 3 ways that we could look at improving the outcome for a client. And it starts whether or not the property's vacant or needs a lease renewal and a rent increase. It doesn't matter either way. We can start with that rent product almost instantly.
Yep. And so, aside from the cost, previously you mentioned about marketing and
Yeah.
how important that is for a rental property, right?
Yeah.
So, what's something that's different about your marketing strategy that's different to other property managers out there that really helps maximize the cash flow for investors?
Yeah, like how long have we got? Is the answer. So like we do a training session with our new staff members who join us. These are experienced staff members, and it's funny because when you start talking to them about the differences that we do, they go, "Oh, that makes sense. Oh yeah, we've never done that," and all of this type of thing. Because generally, what you see from agencies is that minimise the staff involvement and maximise the efficiency of leasing, and try and get the transaction completed in quick time rather than in best time. So I'll explain what I mean by that. You see agencies go, "Oh, we've got a 7 days on market," and sort of talk about how quick they lease properties. Well, that's great, but anyone can lease a property cheap. So if we had 7 days on market as our average leasing time, I'd be tearing the shreds off my head of leasing. It's too short. How do we know that we've maximised the outcome for the client? If we know that a tenant gives us 28 days notice before they vacate a property, we need to have that property leased within those 28 days. Otherwise, it starts costing the owner vacancy.
Yep.
So why do we want it leased in 7? Well, I want it leased in 7 if I'm the agent, because that means my staff only have to do 1 or 2 inspections. But that might mean that I didn't get $50 more than I could have. So who does that $50 impact, right? Sure, I'm, as the agent, might miss out on $3, $4 from commission on that $50, but the owner's missed out on the other 46. And $46 a week is $2,300 over a year, and that's a huge amount of money. And so the agent, by choosing to let your property quickly, may well have cost you all that money. So we sit there and we go, our average days on market, and if you want to know what your clients, if there's owners out there going, "Oh, I wonder what my average days on market is," or they think to themselves, "Oh, my property leases really quickly all the time," you probably let some money on the table there, right? And you can actually check what the average days on market for your agency is. You can go on to realestate.com, you search up the agency, and they have a profile page which actually tells you what the average days on market is for your agency, right? So if your average days on market is 7, 10, 12, that's a bad sign that they rent the properties out too cheap, right? If it's around that 20 days, that's, I think ours sits at the moment, we lease 1,500 properties a year, so we're a big agency, but our average days on market is 22. Okay, that for us is within the range that we're after. We're after sort of 21, 24 as our days on market. If it's more than that, then we've got a problem, right? Because they're effectively, if it's 28, 30, 35 days on market, then what you're looking at is an agency that is not proactive in terms of getting the property leased. So that's a bigger problem. But you can see all of that in transparent data on realestate.com, so an owner can identify that pretty quickly.
Wow, I mean, from speaking to a lot of the property managers in the industry, as you know, I do a lot of networking. All they talk about is trying to lease out as fast as possible, and yes, in most cases, just try to get the cheapest rent, because then that way it's occupied. Occupancy is it's occupied. Vacancy is low, and then they look good in front of the investor, and then that's how they.
Well, the uneducated investor.
Exactly.
Can think like that. And, we've got to look at it 2 ways. Right? If a property is given to you and it's vacant, then the pressure is on. So I'd be hoping to lease that property a little bit faster, because I know that every day, if that's $700 a week, it's costing the owner $100 a day in lost rent, and they've still got the costs on top of that. Right? So we focus on that, and we might take a slightly different approach in terms of rental maximisation if the property is vacant. But if the property has a tenant in it paying rent, and you're not trying to maximise rent during that leasing campaign, then you're really just shafting the owner.
So amongst, obviously the difference between marketing strategy that you guys have and other agencies, what are some of the top 3 common mistakes, when selecting a property manager?
Well, I think ignorance is bliss. So the thing is, if you say to yourself, oh, well, what's the most important thing when you're choosing a property manager? What comes to mind for you?
Rate.
Yeah.
That's one. The
Yeah.
management fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Probably their communication.
Yeah.
as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Their strategy in
Okay.
terms of how they manage the property, how they rent it out.
Okay.
those are probably the
So
top
let's
three.
address them one by one, right? Okay. Everybody tries to be the best version of themselves in their workplace, or if they don't, well, they shouldn't be in the workplace, right? But if they try to be the best version of themselves.
Yep.
Good operators in any workplace, are they well paid or poorly paid?
Well played.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So if you want the best property managers, how much do you think they cost per annum compared to the worst property managers?
I mean, definitely much more. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
So therefore, if an agency employs all of the best property managers, they have to pay them more.
Yep.
Right? That's as simple.
Yep.
Right? Then you look at, okay, how do you make the best property managers better?
A lot of training.
There you go. You've nailed it. Right? You come
Yeah.
into our office and give our property managers training around furnished.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We have plumbers come in, we have industry leaders, we had the president of the REIV come into our office last week. We have a whole series of trainers all through the year coming in. That occupies time and costs us money,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
So we make an investment in our staff to being better.
Yep.
And it's external trainers, it's internal training. I ran a training session this morning on different things in property management. All of that takes time. That means that our property managers, during that time, they're not servicing their clients, right? Which means that they can't manage as many properties as the next property manager, right? So we've got property managers that need training, that need to be well paid, right? And they need development in their roles. And all of that comes at a cost to the business.
Yep.
So how does an agency who's providing the best property managers, giving them really good training and development opportunities to keep them within their ecosystem,
Yep.
deliver the cheapest fees?
Yeah, it'll be very difficult.
It's-
It'll be really hard, nearly impossible.
I put it to you, it is impossible.
Yeah.
Right? We are not the cheapest agency and we don't want to be,
Yeah.
but we do want to have the best staff and we do want them to be trained and we do want them to be developed. You know, there's a saying, it goes along the lines of, imagine we gave our property managers all of this training, right, and then they left.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But the opposite is true. Imagine we didn't give them all of this training and they stayed.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So our belief is invest in training, make the best better. Right? If you work in an industry, do you want to work at the agency that's really good at what you do? Or do you want to work at some agency that treats you really poorly and puts you up the back near the photocopier and the toilets?
Yep.
Right?
I mean, obviously it depends on who the person is, but yeah, in general, if you want to perform and you want to do well, you want to succeed, then
You want to
that's
go.
clear.
You want to
Yeah.
go to a business that focuses on what you do,
100%.
right, and delivers on great outcomes for their clients, and has a reputation for doing it, and it wins awards for doing it. This is how you choose a property manager,
Yep.
right? So that was the first one. What was the second one you gave me?
The communication?
Yeah, communication. Well, there you go. So your best property managers, guess what? Do you reckon they're good communicators?
They'll be excellent.
Yeah, right. And it's your poorer paid, lower educated, right, less confident because they haven't had the training, who then reluctant to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Reluctant. They don't recognise that responsiveness is one of the number one traits that we're looking for in 2025, 2026, 2027.
Today's time,
This
yeah.
is today's time. This is where we're going, right?
Yep.
This is the future is responsiveness. We want to know when our Uber is coming. How? Oh my God, I got a 4-minute wait for the Uber. Right? Can you imagine that back in the days of taxis?
Yeah.
Now we crack it because we've got a 4-minute wait, right? Everything we want now, and property managers need to keep up with that.
Yep.
So you've got to enable that. Now,
Yep.
how do you enable that if you're running your team in a way that doesn't promote that?
Yep.
So we've got that, and then the last one,
So it's management fee, communication,
strategy.
and strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like rental
So-
marketing strategy.
Exactly. So if we look at strategy, right? If we can train that to somebody and we can develop that, if we've got enough time focused on that, then you learn, and if you learn from your mistakes and implement the changes, then you get a better outcome.
Yep.
So, and this brings me to sort of another one when they're choosing, because this is like how to choose, right? I'm wary of small agencies. Okay, now some people go, oh no, I love a boutique. Look, we were boutique. When I joined MRE, we had 240 properties under management, right? Now it's around 4,000.
Yep.
When we had 240, I would have much preferred that my property was managed by the guys that we've got now, with the systems and the processes and the supervision and the experience that we've got now, rather than back when we were 240.
Yep.
Right. So as much as I sort of understand that people go, oh, but I had a great property manager. A great property manager, right, is a joy to have if you've got one. But if they're not in an environment which is compelling and wonderful and developing and training and all that, then they're going to leave.
Yep.
Right. And if you've got exposure to one property manager, because we get property managers in, we had one recently start with us, who's been a property manager for 25 years, right? Started with us, came on board, and like after the first week was like, I'm seeing everything through a new lens.
Yeah.
Right? I never knew this stuff, right? And she's just gone into like, you know, I don't know, crazy mode, because she's like, I knew that, but I never knew that.
Yeah.
And so you're making us do things that were sort of optional in terms of the leasing strategy. You know, so we have our open for inspections. We run them after hours, right? All of our open for inspections go up till 6:30 p.m. And she goes, of course they work better because that's like after work when the professionals can get there. But we never had the resources to do that. So we used to run them during the day. And I said to her, well, and what were the results like? And she go, well, you get more people on a Saturday. And I go, but we get more people during the day, during the week, after hours.
Yep.
So is the outcome better for the client? Of course it is. But you've got to have studied what are the actual times that get more attendees.
Yeah.
And then you've got a resource being able to have inspections conducted at those times. So if you want to choose a good agent, you've got to go big, you've got to go focus, right? You've got to go experience, you've got to go supervision, you've got to go practices, policies, procedures, right? That delivers outcomes. It's not a big brand, it's a big office, right? So because if you join Pinco Polino, I don't want to name a brand, right? But if you join a brand and they've got in their office, they're leasing 80 properties a year. Fantastic. Good on them. We were leasing 80 properties a year when we were at 240 under management, because you're generally turning over about a third, right? And so if you're doing that and you're leasing that, well, they're only exposed to 80 rental outcomes every year.
Like the data is so small.
So we do that every 2.5 weeks. Right? So you can imagine the level of experience, knowledge, the changes, how we sense the changes and the way that the tenants act, how we recognise an update on realestate.com, which that demonstrates how you advertise properties differently, quicker. The common misconceptions of how to choose an agent, I think they need to be revisited.
100%. I mean, just comparing, a small business, like you said, like a small boutique business versus a big business which has a much better, well-trained, process systemized team, are going to definitely deliver a higher, better result for the client, right?
That's it.
And could you give our audience, the listeners, a BS detector when they're getting calls or pitches from their property managers?
Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is, like, let's imagine that they're going out to market and they're,
looking for a property manager. All right, I've got property manager A, B, C. What should I look out for? What are some of the alarm bells? I'm like, this guy's, I need to watch out for this person,
The first one is, if you want to identify, and you can do this from a distance, right? So this is a good way. Let's say you're going to get in, and I recommend this, right? Don't do less than 3 and don't do more than 5 agents, right? 5 will do your head in. More than that, you're just wasting your time. You should have someone who's good, right? Well, you really should just call us, but that's being cheeky. What you want to do, the first thing, is I would call the receptionist at each of these offices right? And I just asked them, "Oh, hi, I was just wondering how many properties your office manages."
Yep.
Right, now the receptionists will generally know that, right? And you just go, "Okay, perfect, thanks very much," right? And you hang up the phone.
Yep.
Now, then what you do is you go onto their website and you look up how many property managers they've got and how many property management staff they've got.
Yep.
Okay? And what you're able to do there is look at the ratio of property management staff to properties managed in that office.
Yep.
All right? That is much better than how many properties does my property manager manage?
Yep.
Right? Because a property manager in one office may do a completely different set of tasks to a property manager in another office. Right? People don't know this, right? So in one office, a property manager might do application checking. They might do the preparation of lease documents. They might do new business, so going out and meeting new clients. They might do leasing, going out and doing the leasing open for inspection, the whole shooting match, maintenance, the whole shooting match, right? And then in another office, they might have teams that do the leasing for them. They might have new business teams. They might have inspection teams. That might have teams that help them. Mm-hmm. So obviously, the number that a property manager manages individually is less relevant because if you're not doing all of that, you can manage more, and if you're doing all that, you're going to manage less.
Yep.
But the two might deliver a similar level of service, even though the number that they're managing is different.
Yep.
What I look at is how many properties there are per property management staff that works there.
Yep.
And that gives you a ratio, and it also gives you an idea of the investment that the business makes on property management within that that office. Because if you've got 3 property management staff running 400 properties, you know that it's 1 to 133.
Yep.
And that business expends that amount of money to generate the revenue off those 400.
Yeah.
Right. If your ratio is lower than that, then the business is investing more in the service outcome for their clients.
Yeah.
So it's a decision from the business. You can run it super lean and you can have 1 to 150 or whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Or you can say, no, we want service to be our aim, and you run it much lower. But guess what? You've either got to increase your fees or be less profitable. And I tell you, there's not too many businesses out there that want to be less profitable. You've got to draw the line in the sand for what you want.
Yep.
So you've got to make a decision which is around driving efficiency, but also making sure that you're getting the service piece right. Because if you don't get the service piece right, you put on clients and they walk out the door.
Yep.
If you get the service piece right, you put on clients and they tell their friends.
Yep.
So it's a decision that's made. But if the business is sitting there and they have 18 sales staff on their website and 3 property managers, where do you think the training's focus is? It's all sales, right? What do you think the business focus is? Well, they want to pick up more listings of auctions on the weekend.
But then they're not going to be looking after...
Their priority is not property management.
Yep.
So if you're a savvy investor, you should be looking deeper than just the standard questions of how many properties do you manage? And, are you the local agent? Or do you have a big brand? You know, do you have a brand with colours that I recognise, right? So that type of thing. All that is fluff.
Yep.
You need to know the level of experience and knowledge that team has. A team of 3 cannot pull together that well.
Yep.
Right, so my big thing is bigger is better, but you've also got to focus, right, on making sure that the business is also focused on your outcome.
Yeah.
Because when you want to sell, you might consider them for selling if they've got 18 sales agents, right? They might be the really busy one in town, right?
Yep.
But that's not relevant for what you need at the time that you need a property manager.
Exactly, because that means they're not really getting the most out of their own, investment properties.
Correct.
And if the property is also not performing well, that might also lead to them questioning themselves, like, why am I keeping this property as well?
Absolutely.
Right?
If you're there for an investment and a return on investment.
Exactly.
And if they can't help you make that return on investment, then they're not going to be the best partner.
Exactly. Obviously, I do a lot of networking, and a lot of property investors ask me, how do I know I'm getting the most out of my investment property? So how can a property manager or a good property manager really help an investor maximize their cash flow?
Yeah, okay. So if the owner is looking for cash flow, then you've got to look at the tweaks that you can do to get the rent up, because it's essentially getting the rent up. That's your cash flow. It's great to be able to minimise expenses, as we mentioned before, but like the reality is they're looking at dollars and they want to make more rent. So things that I look at now is what features to a property enhance cash flow or slow down cash flow. And there's some things that you can avoid in terms of properties that are not popular with renters. But that's a very locational thing. You need an expert to be able to guide you on that. So I always say, if you're an investor and you're thinking of buying, then reach out to us and we will actually talk you through whether or not that property is going to meet your expectations. So I'll give you an example. We had an owner the other day came to us. They just bought a property. It was in Richmond, in Melbourne. It was a 1960s apartment. So pretty stock standard. It wasn't anything flash. It was okay. And they said, how do we maximise the income on this one? We had a look at it, and unfortunately, it had a communal laundry. So communal laundries are not desirable for tenants. There's not too many people now that want to take their stuff to a laundromat or want to take their stuff and wash it where in the same washing machine as that smelly bloke from Unit 8. Right? That's as brutal as I can make it. So you miss out on a big chunk of the market because of the choice. So our discussion with him was, okay, how long do you want to keep this property? Right? You've just bought it. You've paid a lot of stamp duty, all this type of stuff. How long do you want to keep it? And he was like, oh, no, I want to keep this until I'm retired, which for him was probably about 30 years away. So we were like, okay, if you don't want to do this now, in the future, you need to put a laundry in the kitchen. So you've got to put a washing machine in the kitchen so that you can slot it in under the bench tops when you renovate the kitchen. Right? That will open your property to a bigger market. He had carpet in the property. Carpet's not popular, right? There was sort of like my parents' generation, they sort of understood that hard floors in the lounge room were nice and carpets were nice in the bedroom. That's gone out the window too, right? Carpets shouldn't be in properties anymore. People have sort of moved on from carpets. The reality is the popular thing for tenants now is timber flooring throughout a property. So our recommendation was to put timber flooring in. He needs to put into that one split system so that he has aircon. That's going to become a requirement under the minimum standards in 2027. So he may as well do that now. There's also rebates and stuff available for that type of stuff. So a smart property manager will be able to guide you through that. And you can then look at the other features of the property that are going to make it desirable. Has it got enough storage? Could we increase the storage in the bedroom when we renovate the kitchen, when we put more cupboards in, these type of things to be able to maximise the rent that we're going to be able to get out of the property. Some of those things are immediate. Some of those things take time. Some of those things you don't do until you need to do. But if you can improve properties by putting in double roller blinds if you're a ground floor property, so that you've got a sheer so that people can't walk past your property and look in, and you don't have to have a blockout blind down the whole time. There's a whole range of things that you can do that is going to enable us to attract a broader group of tenants, and the broader the group of tenants, the higher the price comes. We need to make it attractive in terms of the way that it presents online so that people actually come and engage, and we need to make it comfortable so that when they actually move in, they don't want to move out. If you do those two things and market it really well, then you'll maximise the rent, and they're things that you can do pretty quickly and easily. But it's different for every property. Right, so if you look at a 2-bedroom property or a house in the suburbs, what you need to do to maximise that might be completely different. You might need to make a courtyard low maintenance. You know, there's all sorts of factors. You might need to put a carport in if it doesn't have if it's a driveway and no car. Little things like this that people sort of want to tick off in terms of their requirements. They're big, you know, it's basically a big checklist. What do you need in your next apartment? Oh, well, I want built-in robes in both my bedrooms that are big enough to be able to exist, right? I want heating and cooling. Okay, they might want heat if it's a house. They might want heating and cooling in the living room and the master bedroom, or they may want it throughout. Right. What do you do to be able to do that? Well, you need the expert help from a competent agent. And you don't get that from somebody that has limited experience and limited training. Sorry to get back onto that same topic, but that's where we're at.
And it sounds like because of that experience, they're able to see, they're able to have that eye to see what the property is lacking and what it needs to be able to perform well in the rental market.
Bingo.
Right.
But there's property basics that I think every investor should be aware of, right? So we do a training session at our office, which talks about what is a good investment property.
Yep. What is a good investment property?
Well, so if you're buying an apartment,
Yep.
right, what are you after? You know, and this is the journey, right? So
Yep.
you sit there and you go, well, I want to attract tenants, I want to keep them. Ideally, I want a strong return and I want capital growth.
Yep.
Right, that's what we all want, yeah? For starters, if we're buying an apartment, buy one on the north side of the building. You get better light. Mm-hmm. You get more light in winter, than you do in summer, and therefore it's more desirable. In the cold months, you've got all this lovely sun streaming in. In the hot months, there's not so much sun around. That's perfect. You buy it on the west in the summer, you're stinking hot. If you buy it on the east, it's hot in the morning.
Yep.
Right? If you buy it on the south, you're cold all year round, you're probably going to get mold.
Yep.
Right? So there's a basic guide to buying an apartment before we get any further or any deeper into it.
Yep.
You would be shocked to see how many property managers, experienced property managers, come into our thing and go, so which way's north then? Like, they literally don't know where north is. That's the first one. They'll get their iPhones out and go into the Compass app and sort of find out where north is. Like, it's nuts. And yet they're they're experienced property professionals.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody's ever told them about the benefits of having a north-facing living room. You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
If you're not trained it, then you don't learn it.
Yep.
This is a journey that property investors and real estate agents are on. One would hope that real estate agents are further down that path. It's actually probably a pretty good question to if you're going to quiz a property manager. Like by saying what way is the best way to have a lounge room facing? Because if they don't know the answer to that, then it's pretty brutal. But they don't know much about property.
These things just sound so basic, but if a property manager is not even thinking about these things, then why would?
Well, are they a property expert?
Exactly. Like, are you guys mainly focused on Victoria?
Yeah, 15 k's within Melbourne CBD is sort of our market. Yep.
Yep. And what yields can an investor expect to get within that area if they were to work with you guys as well, or work with an industry-leading property manager?
Yeah, it's a good question, but it's a broad question because it all depends how well they bought.
Yep.
Right, yields based on the value of the property, and if they've bought high, then it's hard to get a high return. If they've bought cheap, well, then you can do really well. So, if they wanted to get the highest yielding properties at the moment, I'd suggest that they would be 2-bed, 1-bath, no car properties in the city.
Yep.
That you'd furnish and rent them out to international students. If you furnish them well, the international students have no shortage of cash. You're looking at picking them up in the 400s and you're renting them out at $750 a week.
Wow.
So it's a significant rental yield that you can do. You can go smaller than that and get stuff that's like really small, but the problem is you've got to pay cash for it because the banks won't lend on it. So that takes out a fair chunk of investors that are out there that want a North Standard thing. But if you got let's call it a 55 square metre, 2-bed, 1-bath, no car in the city, an apartment, buying it for that sub-5, renting it out for mid-7s, then you're doing pretty well. But you got to have a good furniture package in there. So that type of thing's good. If you then drift out, the bit that I sort of look at is it comes to selling, right? So that's the strongest yield.
Yep.
If you come out of that, I sort of focus on yield and capital growth. So if I go out to a suburb, let's call it Richmond, let's call it Carlton, let's call it Fitzroy, I'm looking for something that the next person wants to buy. So then I'm looking at something that might be a little bit more expensive to buy, but when you purchase it, you're purchasing something that's extremely desirable to the next owner occupier or investor.
Yep.
So then what you're looking at is perhaps your yield isn't quite as high, but because it's got a good balcony and it's got an off-street car park and it's big enough for a single person to actually have a full wardrobe of clothes going on in the wardrobe, because a lot of these apartments are pretty tight, right? And they've got a laundry or a laundry area, and they've got a nice kitchen that you could actually have people around and cook and eat and do all those just normal things.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? when it comes to sell, there's going to be some young person that's going to go, oh my God, that is the perfect first apartment for me. And they're going to be fighting with an investor who's going, that's going to give me capital growth in the future and it's going to rent really easily every time. And so then you've got two markets looking to buy that.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment in Melbourne, there's not too many people going, yay, I want to buy an apartment in the city that's 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and it's 55 square metres so I can barely swing a cat.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And so you're basically going to sell it from an investor market into an investor market. And investor markets watch the dollars. Cool. They don't want to pay more than the last one that was sold in the block. They are tight, right? Yep. So you're changing from a high yield to a good yield, but capital growth.
Yep.
And then if you go outside of the suburbs, if you want to get your yield up, you need bedrooms.
Yep.
Right? So the more the bedrooms, the better the yield that you're going to get out of it. And then you also look for, okay, if I can get a newer house with more bedrooms, okay, then I might get some depreciation. So if it's sub 40 years, if it's 10, 12 years, you're going to have significant depreciation benefit on that. And then if you've got big bedrooms, then you can rent it out either if you go to an area near universities, so if you go around that Bundoora region or Burwood, Clayton, those type of things, you can shove a whole heap of tenants in there. That if it's a low quality, you can do that. If it's a high quality, then you'll get a good strong family into it. Everyone loves a spare room when you've got a bigger family and they've got budgets. So again, you're looking at more bedrooms is better. Buying a 2-bed house now, as an investor with land tax, no, I'd be steering clear.
So to summarize, CBD probably looking at 2-bed, 1 bath, no car park, attracting students. As you branch out, you look at, the yield might not be as high, but the capital growth is probably better, more desirable for owner-occupier. And so the sellability is much better. And obviously, as you branch out to other suburbs, it really depends on the amenities or the services in the area, how much of a hotspot that is, close to universities or hospitals and whatnot. And then you can look at different individual suburbs. But you guys manage mainly CBD and within 15Ks.
Yeah, within 15Ks. But it gets out, like, if you think about it from an agency viewpoint, if it takes too long to get there, then you start losing the profitability. Like everyone's trying to, as you mentioned, I think it was your first comment, everyone's trying to keep their fees low. And when you do have a bigger drive, then it doesn't make a lot of sense when it gets too far. You can permit it if the rent's high, but you want to keep your property managers sane too and not spending all day in the car. They're more productive when they're communicating with their clients.
Awesome. And any investor looking to buy investment property, who would you recommend they speak to?
Yeah, so if they're in Melbourne, and like I don't say that. I don't care if they're buying it from another agent. And to be honest, I don't even care if they're buying it from an area that we don't cover. The reality is we can give them in a 10 to 15 minute phone call tips and advice like we've sort of talked about today, but in more depth and more customised to what they're trying to buy, to be able to enable them to choose the right property manager if we can't help them, which will set them up for success in the long run when it comes to the buying the property. One of the things that I recommend that they do is they speak to property managers before they invest in the property to understand what is desirable in the individual location. Right? There's no point buying, as I was sort of talking about, the apartment that doesn't have a laundry in an area that's full of Aussies that want a laundry in their apartment and won't rent it if they've got to share the laundry with somebody else. Right? So you've got to avoid those red flags. People go, I bought this apartment, it's in St Kilda, it's got this really nice courtyard, and straight away renters are like, courtyard St Kilda, burglaries, right? Right, so like the renters don't want it. You might think it's really cute because you've always wanted a courtyard on your apartment, but the reality is the renters don't want it. Right. So just by having a conversation with a property manager or an expert in that area, Sydney, wherever it is, speak to the agents in the area and understand what it is, what are the most high demand properties that are in the area, and then you make your decisions to tweak that to matching your investment choice. Awesome.
For those investors out there or listeners who don't know about you guys, what do you what does your property management company specialize in, and what areas do you guys manage?
Yeah, so we specialise in residential property management. We've got a small commercial wing, but it's residential. We cover pretty much, if you know Melbourne well, from sort of Altona in the west to Reservoir in the north to Box Hill in the east to Cheltenham in the south.
Yep.
So it's a pretty broad area. And a large portion of our properties through the growth in that market in the time that we've been operating. So we've been around as we are for about 20 years.
Yep.
And in that market, in that area over the last 20 years, there have been a lot of construction in new apartments. So a lot of our growth has involved them. So we do have a lot of apartments on our books, but we handle apartments, townhouses, units, houses, the whole mix. We handle a lot of furnished properties. We've got about 800 furnished properties, and we've got just under 4,000 properties that we look after in total. So we've got a broad selection of areas, knowledge, expertise, but you may never heard of MRE or Melbourne Real Estate because we don't really advertise. We've been flying under the radar. So over that time working with those investors, because the time is now getting up there, those investors started to sell their properties. And so we opened a sales division. That's really gone from strength to strength and has been able to deliver on really positive outcomes for the investors that have come to the end of their investment cycle. So we like to think that once we get involved with MRE, a client doesn't have to leave our loop as we go through from their journey of tenant into buyer into investor into seller. We can handle
that whole cycle.
The entire cycle in one spot.
So you guys don't do any marketing at all?
Very little. We've started recently a little bit of social media marketing, but there was an article that one of the industry journals wrote on us a couple of years back that was called Under the Radar because we've grown this to be one of Melbourne's largest property management businesses without really advertising. So we're very different to your mainstream sales-based agencies. We focus on doing property management well, and the rest comes. And if you do property management well as opposed to trying to win the next auction for the next house on next Saturday, then you're also in a boutique or unique space in the marketplace, and so that's been our strength.
Because I'm still surprised because on Google you guys are rated very highly.
We've got 4.8 stars and
exactly.
It's like 1,500 reviews or something like that. So it's crazy, but Google is one thing. I love owner behaviour. Like, so if you got a landlord and they go, who am I going to choose to be my agent? Right? We would love to be able to get inside their heads to be able to figure that discussion out, right? Because normally they make a lot of naive decisions based on that. They go, I need the big brand, I need it to be local. Right? And so straight away I'm like, no you don't, and no you don't. You need somebody who has a lot of expertise, and you need somebody who is focused on property management. You need that as your solution. But those thought processes are hard to unwind. So it's a journey.
Well, I mean, that's exactly why we're doing this podcast today, and we're trying to figure out, what's the difference between an average and a high-performing property manager. And so,
And I have to say, like the work that we've done in the past, and it's been extensive, but the work that we've done in the past has been one of the ways that we've turned the client's property from being a medium-performing property into a high-performing property by putting suited furniture into it that's been able to significantly increase rental outcomes. Awesome.
So where should people go to find out more about you and MRE and how to work with you as well?
So the business is Melbourne Real Estate. Our website is mre.today. We brought that in rather than .com.au. We brought in .today because we're in the now business. So that sort of gives you a little link to the responsiveness that you can expect with MRE. We want things to happen now. So you'll find all of our detail, all of our mobile numbers. We don't hide anything. They're all on the website. So mre.today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast.
No, it's been a pleasure.
And if you are thinking of getting into thinking of growing your residential portfolio, and thinking of buying in property in Melbourne, buying an investment property, definitely give Steve a call to find out, get an appraisal, find out how desirable or how well that property is going to perform, and then you guys can go from there. So thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks for having us in, Keith. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you.
Cheers.